So you're on a good level already, you do know where to go, you do know the basics, you do know the weak spots, so now it's time to rack up some serious damage. Hello my friends, this is Nino, or formerly known as Nubita 9000, and today we are going to have a look at how to improve your average damage. So let's start with the basics first. In order to put out a lot of damage, you do need to have a positive damage ratio, of course. So that is the key ingredient to do good trades. In order to do that, you gotta put out either more damage on one shot than the enemy does, or you put out 2 shots for 1. If you have a lot of DPM and a small gun, for example. So let's assume you are on an E5 and put out about 400 damage per shot and have only 1k hit points, while the enemy that is facing you is a T62 that puts out about 300 damage per shot and does have a 2k hit points. If you put the damage output in relation to the hit points, 300 of the 1k and 400 of the 2000, then it's still a bad trade if you are going for those trades. So also keep that in mind. Put your hit points into relation to the damage that you put out, because you do not want to lose hit points when you're already low on hit points. Also, of course, when peeking out towards the enemy, then you gotta be aware of campers. Everything that is past your spotting range, bushes in the back, etc. There might be some TDs camping and sniping you. So keep in mind where you would go for TD positions, or where you know other people are going for TD positions, and stay safe of those. So let's get to the real stuff. In order to get a lot of damage, you need to put in more aggression. That means you gotta start early. Go for these first spot positions, not only to collect some information, but maybe you're already able to put out 1 or 2 shots at some enemies that are crossing in the back. Like, you do know where enemies are going. You have a lot of battles already, or at least some, and you have seen teammates go to certain positions. So you do know they cross certain areas, and mostly there are ways to pre-aim them. Just copy some positions from streamers like myself or any other. But for these first spot positions, of course, also the setup is quite important. I will get deeper into that kind of topic in a different video. But for now, it should be enough to just say, count the amount of mediums and you will know which is the side that enemies are more likely to go for. Knowing these kind of first spot positions will also help you a lot if you are on a heavy tank and on a slow tank. Then you might just make sure you don't get hit from these exact same positions. Next up, maximizing the DPM. If you do have some enemy right in front of you that you are pre-aiming that might peek out but does not really do so, and don't stand around for seconds or minutes and keep waiting for this guy. If he's already being passive, then he's unlikely to peek again, and he is not inflicting any damage on your teammates either, so you can go seek out for some other target. Just wait like 5 to 10 seconds at max. And then if you are still quite sure that he's not going to peek out again, go somewhere else. Also, in order to maximize your DPM, you need to always peek out just when you're about to be reloaded. So just count down. If you are on the reload, you see the timer, and if you are at 3 seconds left, then just count down 3, 2, 1, and then you are peeking out and shooting the exact same moment that you're being reloaded. This might not seem like much, but in total, throughout the whole battle, this might save you a couple of seconds, maybe even more. If you do notice that peeking out would result in a bad trade because there are some enemies pre-aiming you, or like just too many guns, too big guns, etc., then don't do it. Don't do it, just go somewhere else, seek for some other angles. Maybe you can even isolate some enemy by just going for a different angle at a close range. Otherwise, you can just move around the whole map. You do have the time. Just move out of the position if you would die otherwise, and just move back to the red line, get to the other side of the map and shoot the enemies into the sides. This works especially for fast tanks. For heavy tanks, not so much. It is also possible to some degree, but be very careful about not getting counter pushed, because that's what enemies really like to do if they can't push forwards either. Apart from that, stay alive. That is so important, to just stay alive in order to put out damage from the very first to the very last second, because you want to be the last one on the battlefield. So if you do notice that one flank is about to die, then just reposition, move out of there as quickly as possible, and maybe you can still support from the back. It's no shame to just go back to the TD position and just put out some last damage before running, if that helps you to stay alive and not die. And you can still be useful. You can still be useful although being low on hit points, but if you do notice your team teammates are about to die, just have a look on the hit points of your teammates as well as their positions. Maybe you know already that they are in horrible position. Then move out of there as quick as possible, because you mostly have the time to still run away and still be useful in the later stages of the game. Also, of course, you always want to support your healthy teammates. If the game is about to get close, then rather go for those teammates that are still quite healthy and just maybe sit behind them and try to push with them, instead of just helping your very low hit point tanks that are most likely to die anyways. So you can rather just decide to let them die and be more useful on the other side of the map. Let's get to the advanced mode. If the game is already at an advantage to you, then ignore the one-shots. Just leave those one-shots to your teammates. A lot of players are happy about getting kills, but in the stats, kills are just irrelevant in this game. It's all about the damage and the win rate, of course. But let's talk about damage on this one here, because if you are able to ignore the one-shots, they are unlikely to be dangerous to your teammates, and they are just rather playing passively and not peeking out anymore. So just ignore them, go for the other targets, and you will do a lot more damage in the end. Your teammates can do the rest. Of course, if some enemy one-shot is peeking out, take it, but don't go for it. Don't chase the one-shot all around the map. So also in the end game, then, if you do see like a couple of enemies on the one side and one remaining isolated enemy on the other side, if it is one, of course, already, then just go for the healthier target. Just go for the side that you could find more enemies on. Also keep an eye on your allies reload, so you can time your shots and already go for the next targets on time. In order to check your performance and improvement, there is blitz stars, of course, which is super helpful and much better than the in-game stats, as it is not only about the damage, but there are also figures like the damage per minute. If you can increase that to over 1k, then that is a good figure, of course. If there is the hit rate that you are looking at, I would aim for like 90% hit rate. That's what the pros have. So make sure you hit your shots and get as close as possible. If you are trying some blind shot, of course, that doesn't matter, because the hit rate is not important. It is about the damage after all. So just make sure you take whatever damage you can. Also, the shot efficiency is a really helpful number to look at. You want to aim for like 100% plus, so you put out a lot of damage on each shot and not mess up your shots. Failed HEs can be very disappointing. The last figure I would consider would be the survival rate. I would aim for something like 60% plus. That is what the pros have. If you're below that, there's no shame in that. Just focus on improving those figures. It is not only about the damage and win rate here. So to conclude, start early, get some early damage, then put out as much damage as possible throughout the whole time that you have. Use your maximum DPM and try to stay alive. Don't die. Don't ever die. Try to do damage from the very first to the very last second. Of course, if you are dying in the very end, in order to just rush in and get the last damage, it might be fine. If you do struggle with teams that are just doing very weird stuff and you cannot adjust to that, then maybe have a look at my last video. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya next time.